This story takes place in the tiny mountain village of Plataro, Colorado, in a 3-story building called Skyline Lodge. The lodge consists of a general store, a restaurant, and rooms for guests as well as employee housing, which is what I was, an employee. I worked as a cook for 5 seasons, May through November, and my wife was a front desk clerk and waitress. We were told tales when we first arrived of strange noises, shadows seen moving about, and a few personal experiences of strange happenings. We were told of the young man who committed suicide years ago by gunshot on the 2nd floor in what was now the owners of the lodge bedroom/office. We were told about the older gentleman who had a heart attack and passed away in the lobby, and of little Ava, the teenage girl who worked as a prostitute during the mining boom in the late 1800s and was shot and killed by the wife of a miner while standing on the porch of a building that stood in the area. Ava's grave was on the property, an unmarked concrete slab in the middle of a field. My own personal experience in my time, there was a door. The door that went outside from the back storage room of the kitchen, shutting and locking behind me after I had gone outside to dispose of garbage, fryer grease, etc. This was a very large, heavy door that in no way should have been able to close itself, let alone lock itself. Also, in the same room, on more than one occasion, after hearing a loud noise, I would walk in to find bowls, plates, cans lying on the floor. This is also the area where many employees reported seeing shadows out of the corner of their eye, only to turn around and see no one there. Another hot spot was an employee bedroom on the 2nd floor. Many people while staying in this room reported having nightmares and feelings of being watched. A young couple was in this room one night playing cards, and all of a sudden, the young man's pistol, which was lying on a bedside table, went off, the bullet going into a wall. Once, while I was on the 2nd floor in my bedroom, standing looking out the window with the door open, a small roll of trash bags that had been lying on the small table in the hallway outside my door came flying into the room, landing on the floor directly behind me, a distance of about 12 feet from where they had been. But the most memorable experience for me personally happened late one night while my wife and I were in bed. It was around 11 p.m., and we had been in a bed for about 15 to 20 minutes when we awoke to the sound of loud footsteps on the 3rd floor, directly above us. Then, the sound of furniture being dragged across the floor, chairs, tables, etc. It's important to note that there was no carpeting in the lodge, all wood floors, and nearly all the furniture was heavy, wooden, handmade tables and chairs. So the sounds of these things being moved was loud and very distinctive. This noise went on for about 10 to 15 minutes. This was the area that employees would gather to play games and watch TV, so I assumed this was what was going on. But after nearly 20 straight minutes, and because I had to be up at 5:30 a.m., I decided to go upstairs and ask them to keep the noise down. After getting to the bottom of the staircase to the 3rd floor, I was surprised to see no lights on the 3rd floor, as well as hearing no noise. I climbed the stairs to find a dark room without as much as a TV being on. I hit the light switch at the top of the stairs, thinking surely they must have heard me coming and were hiding behind the furniture on the other side of the room just to mess with me. After crossing this large room, I found I was completely alone. With my heart racing and the chills, I went back down to my room to explain to my wife that no one was up there. My wife said seconds after I had walked out of the room and started walking down the hallway towards the stairs, the noise stopped, and we didn't hear it the rest of the night. This experience is dated nearly 2 years back in December. Me and my husband had been to Goa in India for our honeymoon. We were staying in a 5-star resort in South Goa with a private beach of their own. I will not be disclosing the name of the resort for obvious reasons. The time I entered the room, I had a different cold feeling, but I ignored it thinking it's the temperature control problem. I decided to freshen up immediately, and my husband went into the balcony for a smoke. He closed the big glass door before smoking so that the smoke would not come in the room, as I hated the smoke. I was in the bathroom washing my face. When I was applying my face wash, the lights went off. I did not get scared at that time. Then I heard the big glass door being opened up and someone walking in. I assumed it's my husband. The footsteps neared the corridor of the bathroom and stopped. I waited for him to come inside, but he did not. Then I suddenly started getting that cold and sick feeling and goosebumps on my neck. I got so scared and shouted with my husband's name loudly as much as possible. The moment I shouted, the lights were back. I washed my face and ran out into the veranda. My husband was peacefully having his smoke. I asked him whether he had come in, but he said he hadn't moved from his chair at all. Then I asked him if the lights had gone out just now, and he got even more confused. I told him what I experienced. He said I was overthinking and made me relax. Our room used to turn unexplainably cold, even after turning the room temperature controller to hot. I tried turning the controller itself hot so that the room would become hot and stuffy, but this also did not help. Our room would turn so cold that even 2 big and thick blankets would not stop us from shivering. I always felt like someone was watching us from the corridor of our room. I did not share this with my husband, then thinking he would get scared, because he is a bit scared of these things. We would spend most of the time outside and go in our room only late nights. The day we left Goa, I confronted him with my experience there, and to my surprise, he said that he was also feeling the same thing, but didn't tell me so that I would not be scared either. Then I remembered how he used to force me to stay outdoors most of the time. Anand is my best friend since school, and one of the few whom I've been in regular touch with. Like me, Anand too is interested in the paranormal, and we have experienced one such occurrence together as described in my story, The Ghostly Hitchhikers. Anand and I are both engineers by profession, and hence life is very hectic. We rarely get a chance to meet each other, though we are in constant touch on phone or email. This incident happened a couple of years back when we were in Mumbai, India. Due to a couple of public holidays in India falling in line together, we had a long weekend of around 5 days ahead of us. Since we had not taken a holiday for quite some time due to our busy schedules, my wife immediately suggested that we go to a beachside resort for a couple of days to unwind. I immediately called Anand back to check his availability. Anand and his wife immediately agreed, and the plan was finalized within minutes. We decided to go to a beachside resort at Murud, which is around 180 kilometers away from Mumbai and takes around 3 hours to reach. Murud has a pristine beach and is a very popular destination among tourists. There is also a fort named Janjira in the middle of the sea. Janjira Fort is also famous for being the only fort along India's western coast that remained undefeated. Since all of us are interested in history, it seemed like an interesting proposition for us. Another thing to be noted at this point of time is that Murud is just 7 kilometers from Kashid, and one has to pass through Kashid to reach Murud. The highway leading to Kashid is where we had met the ghostly hitchhikers a couple of years ago. Though this incident was at the back of our mind, we nevertheless decided to go ahead with our plan. We started for Murud at 7 a.m. in Anand's 4x4 SUV. It was a clear morning and we managed to reach the resort around 10 a.m. Anand and I were very careful not to mention our previous experience to our respective spouses, since it would frighten them and dampen their spirits. We checked in at the resort, which was really very beautiful. It was situated on a hill very close to Marood Beach. It had a great sea-facing view from the front and a dense forest cover at the back, which made us feel one with nature. We immediately rushed to the beach, where we had a great time swimming. We came back to the resort at around noon, had a quick lunch, rested for a while, and then set off to see Gingura Fort, where we were all anxious to see. The visit to the fort was great, and we were back in the hotel by around 8 p.m. After a lavish dinner consisting of several local delicacies, we decided to retire to our rooms. I was tired, but Anand insisted that we go to his room for a game of cards before hitting the sack. My wife and his wife didn't mind, and so we went to Anand's room. Immediately after entering his room, I suddenly felt a chill in the room, which made me feel very uneasy. I told Anand about it, but he shrugged it aside and suggested that it might be the cool side breeze, which might have made me feel that way. We played cards for about 2 hours and really had fun. At around midnight, we decided to call it a day. We had, however, not reckoned that this would be the start of our ordeal and chilling events to follow. The long day had taken its toll on us, and my wife and I immediately fell off to sleep. It must have been around 1:30 a.m. when I heard a knock on my door. I cautiously opened the door and was surprised to find Anand outside. He looked a little worried and told me that after we left, his wife suddenly started feeling very cold and started shivering. Anand had found it surprising since he felt no such chill. I asked my wife, who is a doctor, to accompany me to Anand's room with her medicine box. Upon entering his room, I felt uneasy and could immediately sense that something was amiss. 2 woolen rugs had been wrapped around his wife, but she was still shivering and her teeth were literally chattering. When my wife examined her, she was stunned to find that though she was feeling feverish and her body had become icy cold. Shrugging aside her fear, my wife gave her a couple of tablets, which would put her to sleep and give her a much-needed rest. We did not want to leave Anand alone in this condition and decided to be with him. This was perhaps the best decision, which I took considering the events which happened subsequently. Anand was sitting on the bed, caressing his wife's hand gently to put her at ease. My wife and I made ourselves comfortable on a couple of chairs available in the room. It was around 3 a.m. My wife had dozed off and I was about to follow suit when something really creepy happened. Anand's wife suddenly sat up straight in her bed with a look in her eyes which we had never seen before. Anand, who was sitting beside her, tried to put his arm around her to comfort her. She suddenly shrugged herself free from Anand, caught him by the neck and pushed him. The force with which Anand was pushed was so great that he was literally flung like a puppet 6 feet away from the bed. To do that to a person like Anand, who is close to 6'3" tall and weighs around 9 kilograms, really required extraordinary strength. His wife suddenly said the following words, "Let me go. I have to go." This is still a mystery to all of us. His wife stood up as if in trance and was trying to go to the balcony. I have to admire the courage shown by both my wife and Anand at this point of time. Anand and I used all our might and pinned down his wife to her bed while my wife ran out to get help. We got a couple of housekeeping staff from the hotel in the room within a couple of minutes. I immediately told them to help us shift her to my room. And yes, she was still saying those words as we were carrying her. "Let me go, let me go." As soon as she was laid on my bed in my room, things started to return to normal. Anand's wife stopped resisting and soon fell asleep, much to our relief. All of us were shaken by the turn of events. We thanked the bewildered hotel staff for their help. We decided to check out the next morning. Though a little tired, Anand's wife was perfectly fine the next morning with no recollection of the previous night's events. She was, however, surprised to find herself in our room. Anand, however, put her at ease and told her that he would explain everything once we left the hotel. While Anand was settling the hotel bills, I was called outside by one of the hotel staff who, under the condition of anonymity, told me that the room had been the scene of a gory incident a couple of months back. A couple had checked in. They had a big fight which lasted late into the night. The man walked out of the room, leaving the lady behind. After some time, the lady flung herself from the balcony of the room, killing herself instantly. The police had made some inquiries, but were unable to trace the man who had accompanied her that night. The case was subsequently closed. The housekeeping staff had felt a creepy feeling sometimes in the room, though no incident was reported by any of the occupants who occupied it after that. We decided to let that matter rest, but before leaving, advised the manager of the resort to do some sort of purification or a cleansing ritual to free the tormented soul. Whether he performed the ritual or not is not known to us, since we did not visit the place again. We were just happy at that moment to have escaped without any harm. Anand told her the events that occurred that night. She was shaken at first, but now has come to terms with it. I don't know what that was last night, but I think it's safe to say that it wasn't a great thing.